This is a solo moose hunt. The odds are stacked against me. First things first, I only have 3 days to accomplish this. I will share with you some tactics, my personal experience in the moose hunt, what I'm eating, my personal favorite method to hunt moose, by canoe. Come along on the solo moose hunt. Welcome to the backcountry. This is day one, so this was my travel day and getting set up, getting camp set up. And this spot that I'm set up for camp, I camped out here not too long ago. I made a video on it called Grouse, Wild Harvest Grouse. So I'm back because I like this spot. And there's, I'm all by myself here. It's mid-October. I'm going to talk about my food. This is my food bag plus a Canadian IMP. I'm going to show you that later. This is for both me and Lexi for 3 days. I don't have time for messing around with pots and pans and all this kind of stuff. I'll touch on that later. And also my firewood. I brought firewood with me again because I have such a tight time frame here. I don't have time to mess around. Good, this is go time. But now I have to feed Lexi, give her some water. All right, so the food. 3 different types of food. First type is freeze-dried meal. All right, so everything's dehydrated. Add water, let it sit, and away you go. The second type, MRE. And I have the Canadian MRE, which is actually in Canada we call them, our Canadian military calls it IMP for individual meal packet. Now for tonight, so 3 days, 3 meals. Very simple. And then other than that, I have some snacks for during the day. I'll show you that when I'm out hunting in the next couple of days. Whenever I stop and have lunch or whatever, I'll show you what I've got packed out. I can't function without coffee. So these are packets of coffee that are, you know, in hotel rooms when you have those little coffee machines and a single serve coffee machine. That's what that is. It's a packet from those. Literally, I'm going to throw a bag of this in my cup and boil the water for 2 minutes with this in it, and that's my coffee. Fast, simple, no messing around. All I have for cooking implements is this right here. This is a bottle bag. I got my cup to drink in, bottled water, and the actual cup that this bottle bag comes in as a kit. That's okay. Got good flavor. I should have brought some hot sauce. And a good morning to you. And that right there is the reason why I prefer hunting moose by canoe. That was absolutely amazing. That one cow actually was coming towards me, checking me out. She actually kept coming towards me. I'll talk more about it later. Now we have to continue hunting because I don't have a validation tag for a cow. So that's why I didn't take any shots on those 2 cows. More on that later. Let's go. We got some more hunting to do. Let me give you a quick shot of what I'm looking at. I pulled off on shore. I found a nice rock elevated over the water, and I'm just looking over the landscape. Good place for me to stretch my legs and get some feeling back in my toes because it's cold out here. But here's a shot of what I'm looking at. Let's do a little recap of what happened this morning. That was completely amazing. And what happened is I was paddling along, and Lexi is the one that alerted me that something was up. And Lexi suddenly became jittery, and she was focused on the tree line on the opposite shoreline from those 2 cows were standing on. And she was really focused. And because, I know my dog, I knew something was up. And she just kept focusing in one spot. And I knew there's you got to be something in the woods there. So that's when I took out my call, and I threw out a grunt just to see if I was going to get a reaction. And once I threw that grunt, I just looked up ahead of me, and I saw 3 humps. 3 black humps in the tall grass. And I knew instinctively, my years of experience moose hunting, when you see something black in the landscape, that's a moose. For the most part, a moose in its environment doesn't particularly look like a moose. I know it sounds strange, but when you're looking for moose out here, you're looking for a black spot. And what I had was 3 black humps in the tall grass. The first hump was the profile of the top of his head. The second hump was the shoulder, the hump of the shoulder. And the third hump was his ass. When I saw those 3 humps, I just knew, okay, we got a moose right there. And then it's only moments after, then I spotted the movement behind that moose. And then that second cow came out of the brush. So what I think happened there, what happened is there was a bull on the opposite shoreline, just beyond the tree line, and that's what Lexi picked up on. She smelled something in there, because it was dead quiet. I never heard a sound, and it was probably a bull on that opposite shoreline. Those 2 cows are probably part of that bull's harem, because it's mating season. Obviously, this is mid-October, Northern Ontario. And then when I just stayed still and I got my gun ready, because I am here looking for a calf moose. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Here we have crazy regulations in Ontario, and I'm not allowed to harvest anything else but a calf. So that's why there was no shooting going on this morning. But those 2 cows got my blood rushing, I tell you, boy. Even though there was nothing for me to take out, or they could have been, because typically calves can be deeper into the brush where you don't see them. And at one point, I thought there might be a calf in the brush, because at one point, the big cow, I saw some vapors coming up, what appeared to be behind it. And I thought, oh, there's a calf in the brush behind her. I could see its breath. I could see vapors coming up. And that's what I instinctively thought, but nothing materialized. However, the experience was absolutely amazing. Those 2 cows were not scared whatsoever. And the big one, it actually came towards me. to the point where I was paddling backwards to keep my distance from this cow. Because the thing is with moose, you piss off a moose, they'll fuck you up. So I was actually paddling backwards, very gently, not being too subtle with my movements and all that. And then at one point, I was putting my paddle up in the air, and I was swinging my paddle back and forth. And what I was doing is I was emulating the antlers of a bull. That's what I was doing, putting the paddle up like that. That cow was looking at me, going, well, wait a minute, what the hell is that? But with a paddle, it looks like an antler to them, because a moose has very poor vision. Sense of hearing, sense of smell is out to lunch. It's just right out there. But their vision, not very good. So that's why that cow was very interested in me. It was wondering, who the hell are you? And when I was swinging my paddle back and forth, it wanted to come in closer and see. Because you gotta remember, both the bull and the cow go into heat. This first morning, 2 cows, love it. And those cows, the one cow was a very typical cow, probably 700 pounds, a little bit maybe 800 pounds as far as size-wise. But the big one, that was a big girl. That was one big girl. That big cow, I guaranteed, was over 1,000 pounds. Now, for Northern Ontario, that was one big girl. Oh, Lexi was such a good girl, too. Lexi, come here. You're such a good girl. Yes, you're such a good girl. Yes, you are. Before I leave you for now, Lexi, I just gotta say, you know, she's not a trained hunting dog, but the fact that she sat there the whole time in that canoe and looking at those 2 cows, and she never once barked or grunted or growled or nothing. She just sat there and she stayed quiet. Absolutely beautiful. Well, it's time for a little bit of a lunch. I'm warming up some water for ramen, but I may have trouble because there's a bit of a breeze here. So my plan is stay here for maybe an hour, have lunch, take a break, give my shoulders a break, and then after that paddle back towards camp, which converts to the evening hunt. Now here's what I got for my lunch. I got a pepperette. I got a cheese. Oh, and I got a Lexi. You are so spoiled. And then I got a sports drink, and also have an electrolyte supplement. So the bag itself comes from Canadian MRE. Alright, so I'm going to put, hang on one second. I'm going to eat my pepperette, share with Lexi, and then maybe she'll leave me alone. Hang on. This is from Canadian MRE. It's like a Gatorade. It's like that. And then I'm going to supplement that with and electrolyte. I've been using this year. I was tired of going camping, long days on the water paddling. Then you wake up in the middle of the night in excruciating pain from cramps. Cramps because dehydration. It really helps. I haven't had any cramp issues all summer long. The big advantage to moose hunting by canoe is the stealthiness of it. I'll cover more about that later. So anything that I may talk about as far as regulation, what I can and cannot do, I'm in Ontario. My regulations, what I can and can't do is going to be different for here than it is in another province or another country. So here in Ontario, you have to apply into a draw system to get a moose license. And you have to apply for the type of moose you're hunting and the location where you're hunting. I opted this year to apply for a calf tag. Number of reasons. One reason is, for the first time in my life, I'm here doing a solo moose hunt. My deficit is calves are very hard to locate. Number one, you can't call them in like a bull or a cow. They're not responsive to any calling. So basically, your only option is right place at the right time, and that's really the only way to hunt a calf. And calf are very difficult to locate because oftentimes a cow may have one or two calves with her, but while she's feeding in the water, those calves are bedded down in a thick bush. They're not out. That's very common. The other deficit, I'm here for 3 days only. That's it. If I'm not lucky in 3 days, that's it for me. The reason why I opted to go with a calf is I'm not sharing my moose with anybody. I'm by myself. Let's say I would have shot one of those cows this morning if I had a cow tag. By myself on the side of a river, try to manipulate a 1,000-pound animal. No. It can be done, obviously, but I'd be probably working like a dog for 2 days to get that moose out of here. Also, it's too much meat for me. I'm by myself, so if I harvest a calf, I'll be eating moose meat for 2 years, right? It's not something you eat every day. The biggest calf that I personally have shot came in at 200 pounds of meat. That's cut and wrapped in the freezer. 200 pounds. So you can get a lot of meat from just a simple calf. The cows, they have their calves in the spring at the same time that the bears are coming out of hibernation, so they're heavily predated. Now the calves that make it throughout the summer months and into the fall, they've grown, they're bigger, they're more resilient, but now they have to face their first winter. And the studies are showing that 50% of all calf moose don't survive their first winter. So the idea behind harvesting a calf moose is basically, if it's going to die anyways, might as well take it out, right? 50%. That's large numbers. So that's why there is such a thing as a calf tags allocated for harvesting calf moose, is because half of them will just die anyways.
Mm. Mm.
Beef ravioli, which is this bag here, and then black beans in a seasoned salt sauce. chocolate pudding dessert. We got a First Strike bar. Energy bar is what that is. These things are super hard. Better if you warm these up, make them a little bit chewy. There's a bunch of other stuff in here. Alright, let's give this a try. Smells like ravioli. Smells like ravioli. Tastes like ravioli. Absolutely gorgeous, not so much as a breeze. The sun is now high enough that it's melting the frost away. The fog is lifting off the water. Absolutely amazing. Beautiful being out here. Really am fortunate. And just pulled off to a spot I pulled off yesterday. Get some blood circulating into my toes again. Get some feeling into my toes, warm up in the sun. And yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Moose or no moose, it's just amazing to be out here. The tamaracks have all changed colors, and just very, very fortunate that I can come out here and do this. Absolutely amazing. But I'm going to give myself another 10 minutes and move around and stretch a little bit and continue on my journey down that way. And today I'm going to make it a little bit longer day than yesterday, because this is my last full day here. So if I'm not successful today, tomorrow I only have a short paddle, because I have to pack up and head on out of here and head on home. When I stop for lunch, we'll talk about the canoe. I'm going to discuss with you what canoe is best suited for moose hunting, and I'll show you the canoe I'm using today, because I picked a very specific canoe for this outing, and we'll talk more about it later. Well, I've had my little lunch, and I've paddled further than yesterday. Today is a mirror image of yesterday weather-wise. Let's talk about the canoe. What's the ultimate best? What's the ultimate worst? Short answer, cedar canvas canoes for moose hunting is ultimately the best. The worst for moose hunting is an aluminum canoe. I'll cover the reasons why. So what I have today is one of my canoes out of my small collection. It's a fiberglass canoe, 14 feet in length, and the beam is 36 inches, maybe even more. I forget exactly what the beam is on that canoe, but it's very wide. The canoe that I have today is perfectly suited for fishing and hunting. It's a perfect outdoorsman's canoe. Not something you want to use on a trip. If you were into tripping, you would suffer paddling this canoe here, and this is why. Because it's got 36 or more of beam on a short canoe being 14 feet, it doesn't track. That canoe does not track well whatsoever. But it is extremely stable. So that's the kind of canoe where you can literally stand up and cast your fishing rod. You can be sitting in that canoe and pull out your pump action shotgun and blast away at the ducks overhead. That's what it's designed to do, and it can do it very well. If you were lake traveling with that canoe, the wind just tosses you all over the place. It's because it's a symmetrical canoe. The hull is symmetrical in design, but overall it's kind of shaped like a convex mirror on a heavy truck, if you will. It's dished. The hull is dished. So that's why it doesn't track very well, and that's why the wind can toss you around. However, it does do something very well. That canoe, I can, with 2 paddle strokes, I can spin that canoe right around. It's very, very, very maneuverable, and that is ideal for the conditions that I'm in right now. This is a narrow, windy river, forever switchbacks after switchbacks after switchbacks. And when you have these tight corners and these continuous switchbacks, a canoe that can spin is very, very desirable. I can come around a corner and I can spin that bow over like that. And I have personally taken down 2 moose from shooting from a canoe. So, best canoe and why? Cedar canvas canoe. The reason why it's the best is because it's very quiet on the water. It glides on the water, very, very quiet, and when you get these little rippled waves and they hit the side of that canoe, the canoe absorbs the sound of the waves. On an aluminum canoe, oh my God, it's horrible. The sound of the waves that hits it. The other thing too with a cedar canvas canoe, when you're paddling, you will inadvertently hit the canoe with your paddle. You will accidentally hit, and when you paddle, you got a wooden paddle that hits that canvas on a cedar hull, it just talk, and it's a sound that is natural. It's a sound that belongs in nature, if you will. Unlike an aluminum canoe, boy, you hit a paddle on the side of an aluminum canoe and it just rings. It's just tong, and it's a very unnatural sound, and it just resonates. The aluminum canoes, let's go through the aluminum canoes, why they're so bad. Probably one of the top things is you freeze in those things. I used to take my flotation device and my PFD, just throw that on the ground and put my feet on the PFD and have an insulation barrier between the canoe hull and your feet, because you just freeze in that thing. And when you get up on shore and you get branches that slide down the side of the canoe, man, that screeching, it just throws a screeching sound, and that sound will just echo right down that river. Man, if there's a moose a mile down the river, it's gonna hear that screech and you're just gonna freak it out, and it's gonna be gone. Yeah, aluminum canoes, I've done it, and boy, that's horrible for hunting from an aluminum canoe. So now I saw my third cow literally like 20 minutes ago. Less than 10-minute paddle from right here, right where my takeout is, right? This is my put in and takeout spot. Good sized cow. And very typical. This is what happens when you're hunting by canoe. I came around the bend and I was being as stealthy as possible, dead quiet. And then suddenly Lexi got agitated. And she got really agitated, perked up, and she turned and looked at me. She just let out a low-key whine, and she spun back around, and she was really agitated. She picked up on that cow moose that was standing in the brush. And when I came around the corner, that cow was just standing there in the tag alders. I came around the corner, she looked at me and Lexi, and she immediately just turned around and walked in and disappeared into the brush. Because everything happened so fast, there was no time to react. If she would have had a calf, I wouldn't have had time to pull up my gun and take a shot. Because it just happened like boom, 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 just like that. It was done, right? I did turn on the front camera, but there's no footage of the moose or anything like that. Quite excited. This is day 2. Three moose confirmed. But now time is ticking. I have to leave tomorrow, so tomorrow morning, first thing tomorrow morning, I'm going to hit that water. I only got maximum half a day that I can spend out on this water. Chicken and vegetable stew. I've never had it, so I'm going to try it out for the first time. It comes in a packet, so I just dumped that in a pot of hot water. I got a Wonder Bar this time. I'm always getting a Kit Kat. It's nice to have a Wonder Bar, having something different. And then the coffee, the Nescafe. Lexi is outside busy chasing a squirrel. There's a squirrel up in the tree that's just beaking off at her. Lexi is a professional squirrel chaser. Here's my bun. Oh, smells like a stew. Oh wow, big chunks of chicken. Big chunks of potatoes. I saw some peas in there. That look good. Wow. It smells amazing, looks good, and tastes great. The other, Lexi, you get over here. You leave that squirrel alone. Let's go. I can hear her running through the bush. Come on, Lexi, let's go. She's just booking it. You stay close. You're too far away there. You're way out in the forest. You stay here. I know the squirrels are bothering you, but you stay here. Got up at 6. It rained overnight. As long as the rain holds up, I'm going to go out for a short paddle this morning. Thankfully, it's not raining, because I woke up and I had it in my mind that I was calling it a wash, and I was just going to pack up this morning and go, because I was not going to hit that water in the pouring rain.